Okay, let's jump right into this. Picture this scenario for a second. You've got two guys standing outside in an absolute downpour. The first guy, he's holding this massive bucket trying to catch all the rain. But there's a huge problem. His bucket literally has 100 holes in the bottom. So the rain is pouring in, right? And that represents a massive income, but it's pouring out just as incredibly fast. By the end of the storm, this guy is exhausted, stressed out, and completely broke. Now look at the second guy. He's only holding a tiny cup. But, and here's the kicker, it's made of solid steel. Absolutely zero holes. The rain is just a drizzle for him, which is kind of like having a lower salary, but he catches every single drop. And this perfectly captures our modern financial reality, doesn't it? The person making a ton of money loses it through these endless holes of bad habits. Meanwhile, the person with a lower salary who catches every drop, they eventually pour that cup into a barrel, and then another barrel, and they build true wealth. We are just so obsessed with income these days. We kind of think the absolute solution to all our problems is just, hey, make more money. But actually, scratch that. Making more money when you have bad habits is simply speeding up the flow of waste. You don't get richer. You just leak faster. Which brings us to Section 1, the invisible money problem. This is all about how frictionless spending is literally draining your bucket. So corporations have spent billions of dollars engineering something called frictionless spending. They're actively trying to eliminate the physical act of buying. Think about it. You tap your card. You click buy now with one click. You just double tap for Apple Pay. You never actually see the money leave your hands. And because you never see it, you don't feel the loss. They essentially want you to tap and click without a single second of hesitation. Why does this work so well against us? Well, physical cash triggers a very real psychological phenomenon. It's actually known as the pain of paying. When you hand over a crisp $20 bill, your brain registers actual, literal discomfort. But when you just tap your phone, that pain is totally numbed out. You don't feel a thing until the end of the month when you finally look at your statement. But by then, it's basically an autopsy. The damage is already done. Let's move on to Section 2, the 4 pillars of Kakebo. This is a mindful practice to finally patch that leak. Now, the Japanese have understood how to fix this invisible money trap for over a century. Back in 1904, Japan's first female journalist, Hani Motoko, invented Kakebo, which translates to household financial ledger. It relies on something super simple, a physical notebook and a pen. The goal? To actively reintroduce that necessary friction back into your life. Before you spend a single cent at the start of the month, Kakebo forces you to stare your spending right in the face and ask yourself, how much money do I actually have available? It completely transforms finance from this mindless, scrolling habit into a highly intentional practice. To answer that overarching question, you have to confront the 4 pillars of the system. You sit down at the beginning of the month and you outline exactly what you make and what you must save. You log your income, you set a savings goal, you outline your fixed expenses, and, this is the cool part, you make a promise to yourself on exactly how you're going to improve this month compared to the last one. Okay, here is where most of us get it completely backward. We spend first, and then we try to save whatever happens to be left over, right? Which, let's be real, is almost always zero. Well, Kakebo flips the equation. Income minus savings equals spending money. So if you make $3,000 and you want to save $500, you remove that $500 immediately, right off the top. This creates artificial scarcity. It forces you to pay yourself first, and you just have to survive on the $2,500 that's left. You stop checking a bank balance that lies to you, and you start checking a budget that tells the truth. All right, Section 3, the 4 spending buckets. This is where we start categorizing every single cent. So this isn't about giant complicated spreadsheets, not at all. It's really about forcing yourself to confront your choices every single evening for just maybe 3 minutes while the memory is still fresh. To put this into action, Kakebo elegantly slices your budget into 4 distinct buckets. You have survival, so that's your non-negotiable rent and food. You have culture, which is investing in books, maybe museums, to grow your mind. You have extra for those completely unexpected repairs. But look closely at that second bucket, the optional bucket. This covers dining out, shopping, grabbing drinks. Guys, this is the leak. This right here is the exact battleground where your financial future is either won or lost. To absolutely master your impulse control in that dangerous optional bucket, Kakebo relies on something called the envelope method. You withdraw the exact amount you budgeted for fun in physical cash at the start of the month, and you put it in a literal envelope. When you go out, you only take cash from that envelope. And when it's empty, well, the fun is over for the month.
It creates this absolute physical limit that truly stings. Seeing that stack of bills get thinner and thinner gives you a visceral sense of your resources running out. It totally retrains your brain to respect the money. Let's jump to section 4, the want versus need delay. We are going to defeat instant gratification.
We live in this crazy era where you see something, you click it, and boom, it arrives at your door the very next day. Well, Kakaibo's ultimate weapon against that dopamine shopping loop is the 30-day cooling-off period. When you see something you want that isn't a strict survival need, you do not buy it. No way. Instead, you write it on a wish list in your notebook, and you just wait 30 days. This waiting process is absolute magic because, I kid you not, 90% of the time, the urge simply fades away. You look back a month later and wonder why on earth you ever even wanted it. If you still want it after 30 days, then sure, you buy it. But you buy it with intention, not impulse.
And instead of constantly wanting more, we can actually embrace this beautiful Japanese concept called monozukuri. Our consumer economy totally relies on you being dissatisfied with what you currently own. Monozukuri flips this upside down by finding deep, genuine satisfaction in maintenance. Before you buy new shoes, try polishing your old ones. Repairing a shirt or cleaning up your old phone suddenly becomes this powerful act of rebellion against mindless consumerism. You become the master of your material world, rather than just a slave to them all.
This mindfulness builds directly into another concept, kaizen. At the end of the month, Kakabo demands reflection. You actually sit down and compare your actual spending to your budget. You act like a scientist studying your own behavior. Why did you spend $200 on delivery apps? Were you super stressed out? Okay, well, now you've identified a trigger. Next month, you plan a free alternative, like taking a walk instead. This monthly review creates a fantastic feedback loop of continuous improvement, making sure you get smarter and tighter with your money every single month.
Moving on to section 5. Wealth is a ratio, not a number. It's all about focusing on the gap. So this brings us to the real secret that wealthy people understand. Wealth isn't about having a massive income. It's entirely about the gap between what you make and what you spend. Think about man A. He makes $200,000, but he spends every penny of it. He has literally zero wealth. He's just trapped on a treadmill. Then you have man B. He makes $50,000, but only spends $30,000. He saves $20,000 a year. Man B is vastly richer because that gap buys him his freedom. It means he owns his time. You might not be able to control your income today, but you absolutely can control that gap.
And to maximize that gap, you really need to shift how you view your savings. Stop seeing it as just, money you can't touch. I want you to personify every single saved dollar as a tiny worker you've hired. You are deploying an army of employees that work around the clock to invest, grow, and eventually buy you a day in the future where you just don't have to clock in. You are literally buying your own freedom. How cool is that?
Finally, section 6, the 7-day Kakeibo challenge. It is officially time to patch your bucket.
Look, your life is a ledger with limited time and resources, so it's time to align your spending with your actual values. For the rest of this explainer, I'm issuing a challenge. I want you to follow these highly actionable rules for the next 7 days. First off, do not just check your banking app. I want you to physically write down every single cent you spent. Use a notebook, grab a napkin, write it on the back of your hand. It really doesn't matter. Just write it down. At the end of the week, circle all the optional wants in red ink and calculate the total. Prepare to be absolutely shocked at how much invisible money you're setting on fire. Awareness is always your first step to change.
So before you go, tell me directly in the comments, what is your guilty pleasure expense? What's that tiny leak? Maybe it's the daily coffees, those sneaky in-app purchases, or the convenience rides that is just draining your wallet. Confess it, claim it, and leave this explainer with the ultimate Kokeibo vow. I master my money, it does not master me. Go patch your buckets, pick up a pen, and buy back your freedom.